Hello, everyone. Aiden Rigg here with Clean Pro, and today I have the honor of interviewing Amber Weldon, CEO and owner of Double Duty Commercial Cleaning, based out of Huntsville, Alabama, and surrounding area. Amber, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Awesome. Yeah, love to have you. Looking forward to interviewing you. And as you know, we talk with people that have kind of started their businesses and have taken it to a million plus, and kind of to motivate and inspire other people in the industry. And so, one of the ways I'd like to start off with is very few of us, kind of grow up thinking I'm going to get into the cleaning business. Um, so I always like to find out, what's your background? How did you fall into this industry, or did you fall into it?
Actually, I did just fall into it. When I started this, not only had I never been a business owner, but I'd never been, I knew how to clean my house. That was about it. But I just had a baby. My baby was about 5 weeks old, and my best friend came over, and she's like, had this great idea about, hey, we need to do this. We need to start a commercial cleaning company, and she made it sound amazing, like, there's all these bells and whistles, and we would be making all of this money. And she basically sold me on it.
Yeah.
Didn't realize how hard that was going to be. But her and we launched that in January of 2018, I think it was. I sold my husband on it, and he was like, and I told him, I said, look, if we're not, making enough money within 6 months, then I'll go back to work. And in the company that I left, which was a guaranteed income, so that was another scary
Yeah.
movement that we made. But the company was like, your job's always here if you want it. But that was the end of January. By the 1st of March, we had our first contract, and by October, we had to hire team members. And then it wasn't but a few months later after that I ended up buying my business partner who started this with me, who it was her great idea. I ended up buying her out, and since 2019, I've been the sole owner.
Wow. A 5-week-old baby and you start a business.
Yeah, well, we've got 5 children total. The 5-week old was the the caboose. And then I was actually sending my oldest daughter off to college and cleaning out her room and setting up the nursery in it. And then we're a blended family, so I have a stepson, and then I had 2 other children, and so they were all really young and still at home. So it was quite interesting. You're working all throughout the day, networking and getting to know people and getting your name and learning everything, and then spending all night cleaning. So it was some trying times.
You make me think of that 1980s movie, the lady, baby boom, Diane Keaton, and she's working. She's got the baby on her arm, and she's vacuuming and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so okay, so then you're what, a year and a half into, and then COVID hits.
Yes. That was, yeah, I guess so, because it was around 2020 or the end of 2020. Um, and we had a great, growth spurt during COVID, of course. We had all the disinfecting services, but again, that was a moment that I had to pivot entirely. Before I started the company, I had no experience in janitorial. And so I had to dive myself into training and, like attending all of these janitorial universities and all these groups, and kind of just, organically teaching myself. Well, when this hit, I didn't even know what an automatic sprayer was. And so, you
That's
know,
awesome.
uh, yeah. So anyways, I figured it out. We did really, really well. But then as soon as we were coming out of that, when everyone was staying at home and, having trouble finding team members, as well as the rest of the world, like we really struggled with employees and just, maintaining our year over year revenue. We had been growth, 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 and we had still never lost revenue, but we did go through a few years where it was just, you'd have them come in the front door and out the back door because, being able to hold employees was just difficult to be able to service the customers we had.
Yeah, especially during that time.
Yeah.
So you've never really lost any sales or gone backwards. From a sales strategy, what key strategies, and I'd be interested to hear this, especially for someone that as you say, never had any experience and you had a day job. So what kind of has been the strategies, or what strategies have you used to generate sales and to attract new clients? What's your basic uh,
Yeah.
game
So
plan?
when I first started, it was strictly networking.
Mhm.
I joined some large networking groups in the area, really got involved with the community. And for the first couple years, it was just all word of mouth. And then, because my background was marketing, I came from a digital marketing company where we implemented SEO and, we sold, like social media packages, digital
Okay.
marketing, things of that nature. So I knew the importance of marketing. And I knew one of the main important factors of it was having a strong search engine optimization for my website. So one of the very first things I did was I branded myself. So I hired someone, I didn't do clip art logo or anything like that, maybe for the first few weeks, but within the first 2 or 3 months, we had a branded logo, um, branded guidelines that we went by. And then we had the website, and I launched a search engine optimization and SEO program. And so I have just never stopped that nonstop, keeping all those backlinks connected and then focusing on Google reviews. And all of that has kept me pretty high on Google. And so over time, it came to a point to where I was then being noticed for networking, but then also just organically when people would search for the services they need from me, they could find me because I didn't start doing like real marketing as far as consistently putting things out there or trying other avenues until the last year and a half.
Okay. Yeah, it's funny you say that about the networking because we've interviewed obviously last week with Pavel and Joel uh, with Doc Facilities, and you kind of talk about two things that they talk about. Joel's was about starting off and the networking and how that's really how he got most of his customers, and Pavel was talking about how important the branding was. He came from a janitorial franchise company, and he left one on his own. And so when people go and they click your website and they see that cohesive uh, look and brand, and it kind of gives you reputability. It sounds like you kind of did the same two things uh, with the networking, and then recognized how important branding is.
Absolutely. Yeah, we researched all of the top competitor franchises in my area. We, combed their websites, looked at the colors, looked at the layout. I wanted to stand out, but I wanted to be recognized. Like a majority of people assume I'm a franchise. You'd be surprised at how often that I'm asked that, and I'm like, no, I'm not a franchise. But that was the main goal was, I wanted to be competitive with them.
Yeah, it's and it's a great message because I'm going to say probably 25-30% of the people I talk to that are starting out, they come and talk to me, what have you. Um, that's what they really need to understand. So
Mhm.
many of them don't have a website, and if they have an email address, it's
Gmail.
icleangrade at gmail.com or something like
Mhm.
that. And it's just that because we're in a business to business, right? Commercial.
Right.
And the brand and that is so it's just perception. It's just perception. How would you say that um, did that give you instant credibility right from the beginning? People went to your website, they saw the colors, they saw the logos, and they assumed that maybe you were bigger than you were, or
Yes,
yeah,
I feel like it did like I said, from the get-go. Um, People assumed I was a franchise. So it automatically gave me the credibility. And I think it opened doors. I mean, if it did or didn't, I'm unsure, but I feel like it did because of just how it placed me with my competitors.
yeah, yeah. And then you mentioned which leads me to my second question, but you had kind of I'm going to say an upper hand over some people because you came from a digital marketing, social media background, knowing that. Um, uh, So what did you do specifically? Like, did you go on to any of the social media platforms, or were you just strictly focusing on SEO? And what
Yeah.
was your kind of your game plan with that? 'Cause
I
it sounded
mean,
like it worked pretty fast.
I created the pages for the LinkedIn. I created the pages for the Instagram and for Facebook. Um, but honestly, during that time, I was so busy being, an owner operator, like in the field, like I didn't have time to post as much. And I know that it's important to keep things relevant and keep it consistent, or, no one will see anything. So I knew the importance of it, but I didn't have time to engage with it the way I needed to. And
Yeah.
so SEO to me was the most important during that time frame, and it allowed me to just pay someone to do it that knew exactly what they were doing and run with it. And so if I was going to spend marketing dollars that I was very tight on at the time, because the revenue wasn't a lot during that time frame,
Yeah.
wanted to use my revenue dollars. If I was going to put anything toward marketing, I wanted it to be toward SEO, because I knew that would pay off, in the long run, and that it's something that needs to continuously go.
Yeah. Did you start off on the SEO and that with a budget? Did you say, okay, did you just spend freely? How did you, like, if someone that's
Yeah.
watching this, they go, okay, I get that, but what should I spend? Or I don't have a lot of money. How did you kind of navigate through that?
Well, I really didn't know because, I didn't really know what the cost of everything was. I knew like what we charged customers. And normally we would tell people that, look, you need to be spending like 3 to 5%, depending on the industry, of your total revenue on marketing. Well, in the beginning, 3 to 5% was a lot when there wasn't a lot.
Yeah.
Well, it's not a lot, actually, is what I'm trying to say, whenever you don't have a lot. So I didn't have a lot to spend, is what I was trying to say. So the gentleman that I found to do it, he gave me an estimate, and I want to say the website was actually a little expensive, but then the SEO was only, I think, maybe $500 or $600 a month. And, I bit the bullet and went ahead and went forward with that. And, I mean, we're not with that particular person anymore. We've moved on to other avenues of it that is taking care of our SEO, but it was a game changer for us at the time, because I didn't know how to do any of that. I knew what it was, but I didn't know how to implement it, and I needed someone who did.
And so, when you first started, let's say the first 10, 15, 20 cuts, whatever, in that ballpark, how much would you say came from you networking, going to networking events, and how much would you say came from your SEO and your outbound
Well,
initiatives?
in the beginning, it takes a long time for SEO to build.
Okay.
So that first, 15 or 20, it was all strictly from networking, because I didn't start seeing calls from the SEO until I was probably about a year or more into it. It takes a long time to build credibility, as you know, with Google. And so in the beginning, no, like I was probably on page 15 for a long time.
Yeah. Okay, that's good information for people for sure. Um, so now you figured that part out, and then once
Mhm.
you started to grow, how did you go about? Because I know getting the business is one challenge, and the next challenge is now uh, getting people to do the work. And you mentioned you kind of started, you were a year and a half in, and then COVID hit, which was made it probably even 10 times worse. But kind of from a client retention and an employee retention, what kind of strategies do you use, or how did you navigate through that growth?
Well, we've had a lot of hard lessons over the years. I wish that I could have just sat down with someone who was fully experienced in janitorial cleaning, who had been through all of it in the very beginning, and just had someone tell me what not to do.
Yeah.
Because I've had some very expensive mistakes, and and I've had some mistakes that hurt as well. But I would say the main what so exactly what was the question again? Because I know we were
Yeah,
talking
from
about mistakes.
getting the employees and then
Yeah,
keeping
how we're
them.
keeping them. So with the employees, we have went back and forth and have not always held our feet to the fire as far as being consistent with training. And so I think that was a huge, because we were just trying to fill seats in the beginning. So if you showed up to the interview, we were like, yay, we're going to go ahead and start you. We would go in, show them around, do some hands-on training, and go on to the next. Well, our turnover rate was, I mean, it's crazy in this industry anyways, but it was really bad. I had to really sit down and be like, okay, Amber, what are you doing wrong? Like there has to be a solution to this. And I sat down and I looked at my core values that I'd established when I first started, because we kind of sit down and we did all of that foundation work that you're supposed to do. And so I sat down and I looked at my core values, and I realized that I was hiring to fill a seat and not hiring based on building a culture. And so, throughout COVID was pretty tough because it was, we were ball and chain to employees. Like, even if they weren't doing a great job, we had to keep giving them chance after chance after chance. And then finally, we just got to a point to where once I started hiring based on the core values, and I started getting people in the seats that aligned with our vision, not saying every single person's been that, but a majority of them have, we were able to retain employees. And I was able to slowly let go of the team members that were hurting the company.
Yeah.
And so since then, we have had a very, very slow increase. I mean, almost kind of like, but then I got really, really intentional at the first of this year in scaling. And, I set some very specific goals in place, an action plan to obtain those goals. And, honestly, like, since I set those, probably the end of January, 1st of February, I've already hit the goals and surpassed them as far as my scaling goes. So
Wow.
I think it just all boils down to when I set in my mind that, hey, this isn't working. What am I going to do? So I wrote down a game plan, took the action with the employees, and the same way with growing the business.
Nice. Nice. Yeah. I mean, there's the old saying that culture trumps strategy. Right? It doesn't matter what you do. If you got a bad culture, you got bad people, what have you. It doesn't matter what you do because you need the people to execute it. Which is awesome. Especially for people listening on what not to do at the beginning. Shifting gears a little bit. We had COVID, and from my perspective, I thought COVID was going to really make people, really be adamant about disinfecting, and customers willing to pay a little bit more and all these things. And that doesn't seem to have been the case. From your perspective, what industry trends have you seen that what are customers asking for? And in your neck of the woods, are they focused on, proper disinfecting because of COVID, or is that kind of gone out the wayside? They're still looking at pennies, or
No, I really haven't seen any of that.
Yeah.
Like I thought that I would. Now, the certain things that we have seen, of course, across the whole industry is, the implementation of green cleaning and things like that, which, we've started implementing, with technology, the use of robots and so forth, which I have not looked into that yet, but I have seen a lot of buzz about it. But from a customer standpoint, I will say that when I first started, it was primarily price. And even though that is still a pretty big factor with most customers, I am seeing a shift to where I've had, like prospects verbally tell me that they're not looking just at price. They're looking at everything. And they're like, if it was just price, I would have what I have right now that we're not happy with. So that's making me feel a little bit more confident in the shift that most of them are kind of transitioning to say, hey, look, I know we're going to have to pay a little bit more to get a little bit more quality.
And maybe that, I mean, you'd have to investigate further, or I'd have to investigate further, but maybe that is an offshoot of COVID, and that recognizing that maybe there's a higher value on cleaning, which is obviously is a good thing, because past guests are saying the same thing, that people used to almost just gravitate right to the lowest price, and they're not going the lowest price now. They're not going high. So obviously,
I'm happy if I'm right there in the middle. That's kind of where I try to aim to be. Like, I don't want to be the most expensive, but I don't want to shortchange myself either.
Right. And then, no, it makes sense. So from getting the customers and keeping the customers, what challenges or solutions have you found um, uh, that you would pass on to someone that's watching right now that's starting their business? Um, what kind of challenges and what are the solutions that you found from both keeping clients, getting employees, and then you said you've scaled quite a bit this year. Um, kind of what specifically have you done differently?
So I would say overall, I already mentioned to hiring the employees, just make sure that you're not trying to fill seats. That's going to be the biggest piece of advice I could get there, to make sure you're being intentional with who you hire. And I'm not saying I check references on everyone, because I mean, it is a cleaning position, but if there's someone that I'm on the fence about, I'll check references, I'll check references on anybody that applies if I feel like they might be a good fit, but I'm not just real sure. So, but when it comes to customer, retaining the customers, we have a pretty high retention rate. And most of the time when we've lost the customers, outside of the few, we did lose some due to quality during COVID. We just couldn't find people to clean them. But outside of that, a majority of anyone that we have lost has been to budget cuts, where they're just trying to save money somewhere, which you see that. And
Yeah.
sometimes, you can have 100% on every quality control check you do, and you lose it because they're cutting the budgets, and, there's not much you can do there. But we have a really robust quality program with our customers. We visited our customers at least once a month. And so that way we have that face-to-face interaction with the customer. So if there's something that is kind of like stewing with them that they haven't had a chance to approach us about, if we're having that consistent face-to-face with them, they're able to talk to us about it before it gets to a point to where they're like, okay, we're going to go find another cleaning company, or we're going to get quotes. We're able to stay ahead of it that way. So we're very transparent with our quality control checks. If the customer thinks that everything looks great, but there's things that are not meeting our standards, we still share that with them and, explain to them a corrective action plan that we're going to do and take, and then we correct the problem. And then in addition to that, we have recently, over the last 6 months, implemented a nighttime team member who, if we do have a problem account, this team member takes a corrective action with the team member that's cleaning, or the team that's cleaning, to offer retraining, shadowing, and they continually inspect behind that team member every night until they're doing good. And then when we let them back off on their own, they are put into a rotation of periodic checks. So quality control checks consistently has been the game changer for us to retaining all of our customers. We answer our phone calls. If there's a problem, we take care of it. We don't just sit on it and keep getting the same phone calls over and over and over. If we have the same phone call more than 3 times, we let go of that team member after we have done everything that we can do to try to coach, train, and move that team member through that process. If it's the same complaint 3 times, then we normally can assume at this point that we've given them all the tools we possibly can, and this just isn't a good fit for them.
Yeah, it sounds to me like like you are being proactive instead of sitting back waiting for potentially a customer to because they, if a customer phones you and they're irritated, they probably most of the time have thought this for the last few weeks, right? So and then they're finally frustrated, so they're now at a point that you have to really kind of do damage control. It sounds like you're kind of putting yourself out there once a month, have your team members so that they feel like it's a safe space, I guess, for lack of a better word, to bring up an issue before it becomes an issue.
Yeah, and we have a personal relationship with a lot of our customers because of that, because we're constantly in front of them. And they know that we're going to do what we say that we're going to do. We're not going to avoid the phone calls. We're not going to, oh, we'll take care of that, and then them come in the next day and keep having the same problem over and over.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. Just as we head towards the end here, one of the things that I'm going to say is probably one of the biggest questions we get obviously it's like, how do I get my first customers and those type of things. But the other one is, and we had a great conversation with past guests on this as well. So it's always great to see different perspectives. Is how, and especially this would be great because you started off completely green. How did you learn how to bid or to do the walkthrough and be successful on that? And what do you do? How do you know how to bid and what to bid and what does that look like?
So in the beginning, it was a whole lot of guessing. And like I said, when I say I've made some expensive mistakes,
That was
I've made some expensive mistakes.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, it was that. Now, up until this last year, the accounts, pretty much I would just go in. I got used to being able to see about how long it would take to clean an account, and I would just, kind of take that and bill by, add a little bit for, an error margin, and then I would bill based on my labor hour that I have set and the time that it takes to clean it. Depending on the frequency, that labor hour could be discounted some, because the time, and the time can take less time or more time. So that's just all kind of been a trial and error that I played with and Googling and researching and seeing what other people are doing. But this year, when I set a goal to scale, and I was like, okay, Amber, you're spinning your wheels the last 2 or 3 years, like you're here and you want to be here. So I set a goal at the beginning of the year that I wanted to open another location by the end of this year, and that I wanted to double my revenue, my gross
Double.
revenue. Yeah,
Good
I
for
wanted
you.
to double it.
Yeah.
Well, I tripled my gross revenue and I opened up another location about a month ago. So the things that I did at the beginning of this year, and it kind of all started snowballing once I got that vision of what it looked like, at
Yeah.
the end.
Yeah.
I wrote it down and I wrote out a game plan. Okay, well, to get here, I need to have this much revenue every month. And then this is how it's going to build. And this is how many customers that I need to try to get in front of to get this. So I kind of like put together an action plan. And in addition to that, I surrounded myself. I joined, leadership coaching, which I'd been in leadership coaching already. I put my team members in leadership coaching, like the leadership group management team. So that way they can lead well. I joined a mastermind group that is based around mindset, because if it's one thing of being an entrepreneur and a business owner is things can get to the mind really fast. And if you're operating on a negative frequency, then you're going to put out a negative outcome. So to be mindful is operating on that higher frequency. So I'm constantly putting out a positive outcome, just kind of keeps me moving forward. So I put together the game plan. I even hired a coach to coach me who had been in, who was currently an owner of a successful franchise janitorial company. Real quick side note, I know that the podcast is getting close to being over, but just before I decided to do this, I almost bought into a franchise because I just felt like I was lost. I didn't know what to do. I'm not saying anything against franchises. They are great. They have great business models. If you find the right one. Well, I interviewed, I flew out to headquarters, met all the people there, was about to do it. And my CEO roundtable leadership group, I brought everything to them. And they were like, Amber, you've already done all the hard work. Like you have laid the foundation, you've laid the groundwork, like you just need help taking it to the next level. And so when I kind of sat back and thought that, they were like, take that money that you would invest in royalty fees and invest it in yourself. And so that's what I did. So I took that money that I would have invested in. I bought one of the franchise owners that I'd spoke to during this journey, he had said those same words to me. And then I'd called him back and I said, look, I know I'm a competitor of yours.
Yeah.
I said, but would you mind coaching me? And so he did. Like I paid him a fee and he put me on a 9-week coaching program to teach me all of those nuggets that I did not have the self-esteem I don't, well, I guess it was self-esteem. There was so much that I didn't know when it went to going after bigger contracts to get me to where I needed to be, that he was able to fill those holes for me to give me the confidence to go and, you know, stand in front of those customers and feel confident in what I was saying and doing. And so when that happened, it just opened doors. I set a minimum revenue and I said, okay, I'm not going to take anything less than this. I'm not going to take a frequency any less than this. And then the rest
I
is
love
history.
it.
This,
That is so awesome. The reason why it's so awesome to me is uh I'm just for the Clean Pro, just creating a course for the beginners on self concept.
Mhm.
Um and you know, once you believe you can, or you know, you put it out there and you see it, you kind of just gravitate towards it, right?
Yeah.
You grow into that spot. You grow into that, and that's
Mhm.
what it sounds like you did. And having the drive or the guts, I guess, to go to someone and, you know, your competitor, and say, I need help, I need coaching. That's awesome.
Ah,
Um, which leads me
yeah.
to my last question, which would be, go back to your younger self. You're starting off today, you know, this week to start double duty. What's the you know, one thing that you wish you knew then that you know now?
Honestly, honestly, I think it would have been the mindset. I think that if I would have immersed myself into the mindset coaching, um, you know, the books that I read revolving around just, you know, like you are what you think, things like that. Because during the beginning, it is so hard and you get beat down so easily, that I think I mentally blocked myself from a lot of potential, because I felt like I wasn't worthy and I felt like, you know, I can't do this. I can't, you know, because there's been many times that I was like, screw it, I'm selling this, I'm done. Like, I can't do this anymore. And, you know, I would talk myself out of it. So, I mean, I've always had a positive mindset, but at the end of the day, but you know, where it's at now, if I would have had the same type, if I was operating on the same frequency then as I am now, there's not much telling where I would be. I think it would have opened up a lot more doors. I would have gotten the guidance that I do have. I would have gotten it a lot sooner because I would have, you know, had the guts to go out and get it and ask for it and look for it and things like that.
That's that's so awesome, because you know, I hoped you were going to say that, because us the conclusion I've come to for myself,
Mhm.
and Pavel, recent guest, said exactly the same thing. And I just want to say the thing I hoped, it's the thing I thought you might say, because that's the thing for everybody, right?
Yeah.
It's surrounding yourself with people that can help you, and that help you think bigger, better, stay
Yeah.
focused, what have you. It's we have to surround ourselves in it, or else um it's pretty hard to stay focused when you're not surrounded by it.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the common theme I've got with everybody, that if they went back in time, having a mentorship, having some type of a coach, some type of a
Mhm.
thing. um
Yeah, I've been very intentional on surrounding myself with like-minded people and with people who are where I want to be.
yeah, well, that's awesome. So double duty cleaning, commercial cleaning, based out of Huntsville, Alabama, and surrounding areas. Um, how can people find you if they want to know more about you, more about your business? What's your
Okay,
website?
yeah. Our website is www.doubledutyclean.com. And then my email is amber@doubledutyclean.com. And our phone number and everything is there on the website, 256-584-2417.
Perfect. We'll take all those and put them in the description below, so everyone has it. They can just click and not have to do the searching. But Amber, thank you very much. Love doing this. Love having you as a guest. It's always motivational for me, and hopefully for the viewers to see what's possible. And because I'm sure a lot of people watching this are where you have been frustrated, maybe do I get a franchise, what have you. And whatever they decide, as long as they make the decision that's not based out of fear and frustration, but is the right decision for them. So
Yep.
hopefully we help point them in the right direction. So thank you very much for your time. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been watching Clean Pro, Aiden Rigg, and until next time, thank you.